Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the 6:01 convening. Welcome to the Clovis City Council meeting of August 19th, 2024. We appreciate you being here today. So I will call the meeting to order, and I will ask Councilmember Baskel to lead us in a flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Matt. Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Baskel.
Here.
Councilmember Messenger.
Here.
Councilmember Moana-Tuess.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
And Mayor Ashbeck.
I'm here. First up tonight is the presentation of a proclamation to transit employees Juan Lamelli and Diana Contreras for outstanding service. So we will invite them to join us up here, and Shauna or Amy, or where's Amy? Oh, there she is. Come on down, Amy. Why don't you stand over there at the microphone for now, and then Amy will join you there. And I've asked Councilmember Pierce to read the proclamation for you.
City of Clovis proclamation honoring Diana Contreras and Juan Lamelli for exceptional service. Whereas it is with profound appreciation and admiration that we recognize the extraordinary actions of Diana Contreras, dispatcher, and Juan Lamelli, van driver, whose exceptional teamwork demonstrated exemplary dedication to our community. And whereas during a routine passenger pickup, Juan became concerned by the lack of response from a well-known regular passenger, consulted with Diana, and together they made the crucial decision that Juan should return to the passenger's residence to better assess the situation. And whereas after returning to the residence and shutting off his vehicle, Juan heard faint cries for help from inside the house, notified dispatch about the situation, and Diana immediately alerted emergency services, providing critical information that facilitated a swift response. And whereas upon arrival of emergency services, it was discovered that the passenger had fallen the previous evening and was trapped between her bed and the wall. And whereas our valued passenger has since expressed profound gratitude to Diana and Juan for their actions, which were instrumental in her rescue and subsequent recovery process. And whereas Diana Contreras and Juan Lamelli's dedication to duty and exemplary service are examples of the highest standards of professionalism and compassion, reflecting great credit upon themselves and our transit team. And whereas their quick thinking and effective communication in a critical situation exemplify the values of service and community that are hallmarks of our transit division and the city of Clovis. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Clovis City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Clovis, hereby honors and commends Diana Contreras and Juan Lamelli for their outstanding service, dedication, and teamwork, which have made a significant difference in the lives of our passengers and our community. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clovis to be affixed this 19th day of August, 2024, signed by Mayor Lynn Ashbeck.
Amy, would you like to add anything? Thank you, Diane.
There's not much I can add to that. Both Diana and Juan have declined to speak tonight. They're both a little shy, and I know they're, but I'm not shy.
They've been busy. They were doing other things.
Yeah. So, you know, that proclamation says it all. They were instrumental in potentially saving a life of one of our passengers. But I have to tell you, I'm convinced that heroic acts happen every day with not only our public transit staff, but all of our city staff. We're out there in our community, face-to-face with our citizens, and once in a while, we're in the right place at the right time, and we do the right thing. And this is a really good example of that. Again, I don't have much to add except for I'm just like a proud mama up here. I couldn't be more proud, and just really pleased with how these two performed. I want to let you know there's transit staff here in the audience tonight. My transit manager is right here, Bethany Berube, and our management staff, because we all wanted to come and support these two and just let them know how dang proud we are of them. So thank you, council, for recognizing them, and thank you both for doing the right thing, listening to their instincts, and actually breaking policy. Once in a while, it's okay to break a policy, and this was a really good example of that.
It's what they were meant for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So if you are open, would you like to come up? We'll give you each a proclamation. We'd love to shake your hand. On behalf, I think, of all of us, thank you so much. You are what makes Clovis Clovis, and we are grateful. As I said, if you wonder why Clovis is different, that's why, because of folks like them. So thank you so much. Next up are public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items that are within our jurisdiction, but not on tonight's agenda. And I will note, on our dais, we have I don't know, dozen or so emails that all look like they are about the stop sign on Fowler and, well, not all. Most are on the stop sign at Fowler and Perrin, that item. And there's a couple on the item number 13 that we will be hearing tonight on the RT Park. So we have received those and appreciate receiving those from the residents. And there's also a petition, but it's regarding item number 13 from residents, so we have that as well. Anyone have a public comment item that they'd like to bring forth? Please, I'd invite you to the microphone. If you can state your name and address for the record, and if you limit your comments to 3 minutes, we would be grateful as well.
I've read it already. My name is Bonnie Sabrina Dunn Nasser, Clovis High graduate from 1973. My great-grandfather, George Butler, lived here in Clovis, 764 Music Street, and that was when it was a dead-end street. I was shocked when I came back and saw it went all the way through the Jefferson.
That was your grandfather?
My great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
George Butler.
Okay.
Yeah, Music Street.
Was he a candy maker?
No. He farmed on that land.
Okay,
yes.
All right, great. Well, welcome. Thank you.
Oh, yes, glad to be here. My first time coming. And I really wanted to find out about the Clovis Transit. I saw Amy just left, and I think we are underrepresented trying to get around Clovis on line 10 and 50. That just doesn't do. And it takes me forever, and I have to go on a tour of the other side of the city before I want to come back into Old Town Clovis over where I want to go. So I wonder how soon that will be occurring. I've been told over and over again, well, it's going to happen. Well, I'm ready for the egg to hatch, come out, let the chick out of the egg. So I'm being patient as I can, but I'm getting older, 68 right now, and I want to be dead. I don't want to be dead before this happens, okay?
We don't want that either, for sure.
Okay. So I'd like to find out a little bit more. I saw Amy. We have talked about it, and she's the reason I decided to come live back here in Clovis, because I used to be at the Orchard Post-Acute on Tulare, and the fax was not making me happy at all. Here at Clovis Transit, at least I feel like I'm on the yellow cab because of the quickness that they come, and the day of the visit you come, and then 2 weeks in advance you can make a request, and I don't have to pay gas or for a chauffeur.
Yeah, nice.
So,
thank you.
I know, it's, a good thing. You're looking at my time, huh?
Well, kind of, because
Yeah.
I'm trying not to do that. Talk as long as you want.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, 'cause this is my first time.
I
so
know. You
I'm
can have
shocked.
all these 3 minutes. No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And my sister was in public relations, and I'm in advertising and journalism, so that's why I can talk so much. So, yeah, if you guys would consider, helping me out, get a better understanding of how soon this, proposal will be occurring. I'm on a walker. I have a difficult time with the Clovis Transit anyway, and I'm thankful that the Clovis Roundup takes me to Fresno and back again, but I'm unhappy too that they closed, the route that you can go to in Fresno. It's at a certain, time. They won't go back into Fresno. I believe it's at 5 o'clock, 5:30, and they are limited to how far, well, they can't go out of Clovis, period. So sometimes I want to go to things in West Fresno where I grew up.
Yeah.
I want to know about getting around downtown Fresno.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want it to be like no longer in existence, like everything south of Shaw looks like it's dead right now. Available signs and for rent and for sale.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I still want to go over there and see downtown. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. So can I link her, Bethany, can you connect, to talk about Route 10 and 50? Is that what you said? Lines 10 and 50? Is that what you said?
Those are the only two that operate. The other ones are exclusively for the students, if I'm not mistaken.
So Bethany, works with Amy, in the transit team. So if you two can connect, and we'll see if we can get you an answer and get that egg to hatch, or whatever you said.
I barked up the tree.
I know.
Bethany
Oh, now here's
before.
Amy. You have Bethany and Amy and Shauna.
Amy has met me over at Current Avenue when I was talking to the transportation department about how sorry fax buses were. And they said, oh, well, that's just the way it goes. Well, no, if I'm paying taxes, you need to do better, fella.
I hear you. All right. So if you guys can connect, that would be great. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here and for your family's history in Clovis. That's great.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I live at 32 West Sierra Avenue, assisted care, because I had a stroke in 2018, was paralyzed on the right side, and Richard Hernandez, I forget, see, that's my brain, sometimes on and off. He did, Channel 26 did an interview with me about how
Rich Rodriguez.
Rich Rodriguez,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Was disabled, unable to move the right side of my body, but I refused to be bedridden because I was still alive. I'll do that when I'm in a coffin.
Well, you look great. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. So Amy and team can connect with you on that. Thank you so much. Anyone else have an item to bring to the council that's within our jurisdiction? Please. Clovis donuts. Now we're talking. Hello.
Greetings, council members, mayor, and city managers. I'm here in response to a anonymous complaint about a illegal sewer connection, and my property is on 3092 DeWolf Avenue.
Would you mind sharing your name as well?
Sunday Hin.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So we purchased our home, entered escrow end of 2015, moved in January 2016. Some stipulations came with the property about the easement and the widening of the Wolf Avenue right in front of the school. So we lost 39 feet of our property. And that work was completed, I believe, 2017 or 2018. So I believe, there was a lot of shortcomings where the information provided to us didn't match what was performed on the site. Like for the first page, I don't really read the engineering diagram so well, but it says our fence was supposed to be moved. And, you know, this was, my realtor told me this, or the previous owner, and, you know, and we talked to, I believe it was Matt Smith at Woodside Homes at the time, and he said, you know, when the construction comes, you'll get a new fence, you know, everything will be sealed off, you'll have a new sidewalk, everything's gonna be fine. Years later, nothing ever happened on that end. They gave us the retaining wall, just a lot of things that were promised that didn't happen. Fast forward a bit, after the widening of the street, we had sewage problems. And we lived with this, you know, for a few years. And it got to the point where I would call up for maintenance for them to have to come pump our sewage. And they, you know, I got to know them, and they said, there's no way that you should be pumping this often. There's something wrong. So looking back into it, and then knowing the construction and everything, off the 39 feet that we lost off our property, our leach line was removed. So that kind of fast forward to 2020, I just had my third child, and you know, bring her home, and we're having sewage problems again. So everything's shut down. No one wants to work, or they can't work. So I reached out to people I knew in the construction field. They made some recommendations. I found a guy, paid him. It was about $9,500, and it was fixed. You know, fast forward again, my neighbor, my neighboring parcel built their house, so they're going through their inspections, going through everything. And then all of a sudden, I get a notification that said from the city, I believe, that there was an anonymous tip that our home had a illegal sewer connection. And I ignored it because I was like, that can't be us. There's no way. Because, you know, I didn't know what it was, but so I've been talking to Sean Smith in the city, and I'm trying to rectify the situation and get everything, you know, in line of, as a homeowner, I want to take care of everything. So I just want to, I mean, the first few pictures are just, first picture is just, you know, what was existing before. We had, you know, the wrought iron with the bricks and everything. So that's an old street view. The second one, that's just the motor from, you know, just to show that there was electrical running, you know, powering the gates. The third one is the PG&E vault where they dug behind the retaining wall. The next picture will be how they left it. You know, I was told that, you know, anytime the city comes out, that they should have, you know, return your property to where it was or even better. So, I mean, as you can see, there's like a bunch of sunflowers growing there, patches of weeds and everything. That's where they dug, and they just left it like that. So, I mean, they never replaced the grass or anything. The next picture is a vault from a neighboring property where you see the same PG&E vault, but their retaining wall has returns. So, you know, they don't have to deal with the erosion problems that I have. They don't have to deal with, you know, some of the grading issues. Also on the south side of my property, you can see where the retaining wall is just abruptly ends. So instead of making that little 45-degree angle to meet up with my existing fence, they just left a 3-foot gap. And then the picture is a more recent one where I put my fence back up, and I have a gate there right now, but I still have the erosion problem in that area as well. Then following along.
I think your mic went off. Did you push the button? There you go.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and
So,
we need to sort of wrap it up. I know
yeah.
I want you to be able to say your
Right.
story, though. Yeah.
So I'm here now. So this is just another property where you can see their grade is extremely lower than their retaining wall, whereas, you know, my grade was higher or even with it. And, you know, when they had built the retaining wall, I'd asked them to add an extra layer, which they denied. And so I felt that was like a little bit of a shortcoming as well. The next picture is of a city.
But You went off, your microphone went off again. There you go.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I have a picture of the city vehicle. This is from 9/14/23, where city employees came onto our property without permission, and I guess they were trying to access like a manhole. They were out there for half an hour to an hour with chisels and hammers trying to access this manhole, and that was one of the things that kind of made us feel uneasy, and that's why we put up our fence. It's like, just anybody could really just walk on and, you know, have small children at the home, and we're not there most of the time, so. This picture was, the picture of the violations. I mean, I only printed that up because, like I said, this was supposedly an anonymous citizen complaint about an illegal sewer connection. It didn't make sense to me because, I mean, like I said, we've had complaints before about our property, and usually it comes in this form where an officer will give you a courtesy notice of violation, and, you know, I understand, you know, pretty much there's channels that you would have to go through, and then just hearing that there was an anonymous complaint about an illegal sewer connection, it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like we were being singled out for some reason. But the next pictures were just damages. You know, we've had several damages through our concrete and our property from, you know, heavy equipment moving in and out. Some has been fixed, and some are still remaining. I mean, the last 2 pages are what I really wanted to get to. Is this is the quote that Sean Smith had given me for the costs of the sewer connection. So ours was roughly $21,000. Our neighboring property with the same parcel size, we live adjacent to each other. I'm sorry, the pictures are a little grainy, but his total cost was $9,362. So, I mean, I just wanted to see if the council could correlate with, you know, city side and get our fees in line so that we can pay a fair amount. Because I feel like, you know, double the price, that's a little bit outrageous. So, and I also wanted to see, you know, follow up, just knowing what I know now about the shortcomings of the construction, if I can, you know, start filing my claims and see if I'd be able to get any refunds or some kind of compensation for, you know, the shortcomings of that as well.
So thank you for that, and in interest of time, I want to find someone to help you.
And then for, at least for the sewer connections, be Thad Avery. As far as claims against the city, it would be Shauna Halterman, just to get information from.
So Thad is our city engineer. So maybe you can connect with Thad, and Shauna is there, and she could help with claims for that. And we're sorry for all of the confusion, and it does seem hard to.
No worries.
Well, no, it is.
I want to make things right, so that's why I want to go through the channels.
Yeah. So I think connecting you with Thad and Shauna both can at least give you a point of contact to help you navigate your way through who does what and who owes who what and what should have happened. So if you don't mind connecting with them out in the foyer, you'll get their contact and you can navigate. They're both very smart and capable, and they will take care of you. So come back and tell us if it doesn't get resolved, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we bet. All right. Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for your small business in Clovis. Good donuts. And I believe donuts are on everyone's diet all the time, for the record. Thank you so much. Anyone else have an item to come before the council that is not on our agenda but within our jurisdiction? All right, seeing none. We'll go to the consent calendar. These items are routine in nature. We act on them in one motion unless someone from the council or the audience wishes to pull an item. Are there any council members who wish to pull any of the consent calendar items tonight? Seeing none, any from the public want to speak to any of those items independently? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items numbers 2 through 10.
I'll make a motion, but I also want to congratulate PD for that ABC grant that they got. So, but I want to make a motion to approve the consent calendar 1 through 10. Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Administrative items, there are 2 items tonight. So if you will connect with that and don't let them get away. All right. Item number 11 is to consider the approval to authorize staff to proceed with a Prop 218 public hearing and majority protest vote to implement a water meter installation fee to unmetered parcels in Tarpey Village. And staff on that is Paul Armandaris and Kevin Tuttle, I'm betting.
That is correct. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So Kevin Tuttle is a supervising civil engineer for the Public Utilities Department.
Great.
He's going to go through the presentation, and then we'll both be available for questions.
You don't bring us very many people from your department. How come?
Just getting some exposure. He's the project engineer, project manager for the Tarpey projects.
Welcome. Everything you heard about us is partially correct.
Partially?
Just kidding. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Paul. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as mentioned, we are here to request your approval for the authorization to proceed with the Prop 218 public hearing and majority protest vote for the water meter installation project in Tarpey Village. So a little bit of background on the need for this project. You may remember a long ways back, 20 years ago now, California Assembly Bill 2572, and that Assembly Bill amended the Water Code, specifically Section 527 as it pertains to this project, to require urban water retailers to do really 2 things. The first is to meter all connections within the city. So that would be residential, so municipal meters, and industrial meters. The second part of this bill was that every one of those meters had to be charged according to their volumetric water use. So the water that goes to the meter is what you ultimately get charged for. Now with that, Tarpey Village was a fairly large unmetered area within our water service area. Historically, and dating back all the way back previous to the Assembly Bill back to 1991, the city has been providing water meter installation services at our cost for the Tarpey Village area. And at our last update, this was about $980 per meter, and we amortize that over 2 years for the customer if they wish, and that's interest-free. And city staff has been notifying residents since the Assembly Bill passage in 2004 of the impending deadline and really the benefits to water meters in their install. We notice a lot of water conservation and really some cost savings on the bill at times when you install those water meters, just because you're more aware of the water you're using. And again, in 2022, we sent out another notice via letter of the impending deadline to the residents. And each billing cycle, we also include a little pamphlet in their bill that lets them know if they are unmetered. And that also includes just a general breakdown of the water use that's unmetered and that's going into the water service area. We have a bulk meter right now that measures the water, and we let them know what that water use is, how many meters are how many users are unmetered, and what that ultimately breaks down to in cost. And just recently here, last week actually, staff initiated and attended a neighborhood meeting with the Tarpey residents just to receive their feedback and to let them know a little bit about what's coming and take that feedback into consideration as we move forward. The current status of installations within Tarpey, so there are 1,354 services within the Tarpey Village, what I'll call service area, the boundaries of with that area. About 1,019 of those have meters that have been installed to date. There are 308 services that require a retrofit and a meter installation. And what I mean by retrofit is the piping, just bringing the piping to the meter up to city standards. About 27 connections have already had that piping retrofitted. Maybe there was a leak or there was some cause to go out there and retrofit the connection itself. However, at that time, the user elected not to install a water meter and pay that cost. So right now, it's just a standard connection with a pipe going right through. Staff is in the process of bidding a project to have the remaining meter retrofits performed by a contractor. That project is CIP 2415, the Tarpey Village Meter Installation Project. Staff have historically completed these meter retrofits on our own. So we have service staff that are dedicated to going out and checking on meters, and they're trained in installing these according to the city standard connection. However, due to the impending deadline, which is January 1st of 2025, really doing 308 of these is going to be quite burdensome on staff, so we're looking to have a contractor do that work. Now, the downside of that is we do estimate that costs may come in higher than the previous $980 charge, but we'll know more about that with the project that's coming in. And that project is scheduled to have bids accepted actually tomorrow, and our intent is to come back for a council award on September 3rd. So what does this all culminate into? And really that's because of the cost and, you know, defraying this cost over the users that are benefiting from this meter install, we have to go through a Prop 218 process. So Water Code Section 527B, and that's actually part of this assembly bill we've been talking about, that provides that urban water suppliers may recover the cost of providing services related to the purchase, installation, and operation of a water meter from rates, fees, or charges. So staff will prepare a notice that includes the information about the public hearing, and at that time we will conduct a majority protest proceeding. If 50% plus one of the total number of unmetered properties in Tarpey protest the fee cannot be approved. And just of note, we will be sending out these notices to the tenants as well as the property owners, as the law requires. But if the majority protest did come back and the fee could not be approved, it won't stop the project. This is a state law that we have to comply with, so the project will go forward. So what are our next steps? With council's approval, staff will conduct the Proposition 218 process. We have a tentative schedule of sending the notices out October 17th. We plan to conduct the public hearing roughly December 2nd, and with the intent that the charges would be added to the bill in January of 2025, and that would be consistent with the law. So as mentioned, we are requesting your consideration for approval to authorize staff to proceed with a Proposition 218 public hearing and majority protest vote to implement a water meter installation fee to unmetered parcels in Tarpey Village. And with that, staff is available for questions.
Thank you so much. I have to ask the obvious question first. If the Prop 218 hearing fails and we have to do the work anyway, we're just on the hook for that cost?
Yes, that's correct. So the existing user cost that we have, the system would be absorbing or paying for that cost.
That's sort of a double unfunded mandate by the state of California.
Absolutely.
Do it, okay, and then let people vote on it, and if they don't want to pay, then we have to pay anyway.
Yeah, and the other 1,019 residents who have already paid for a meter, there's that as well. So they've already paid voluntarily, had a meter installed, paid their fair share, and had that cost. We've gone out for grants a couple times, tried to get a portion of this funded over the last several years, and have been unsuccessful with those.
All right, I just wanted to make sure I was tracking what you said. All right, thanks. Drew, you had a light on.
If someone says, I don't want you on my property, I'm assuming we're going to do this in the easement, obviously, but have we run into that situation?
We have before too, and what we will do is we'll notice them if they do not allow us to go on their property. It is an easement. We'll have assistance from Clovis PD to escort and get us on that property to do the work that we need to do.
And if I understand it correctly, if it doesn't, the Prop 218 doesn't pass, we're going to do the work anyway, and that is going to be funded by all the users in the city?
It'd be funded by the current enterprise fund, which is funded by current users.
Okay, so my bill could go up, everybody's bill could go up. Obviously, this isn't going to break the bank, but we're going to fund that if they don't do it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Long.
So, Paul, no one in Tarpey is on a well anymore?
No individual, not in this water service area, no individual parcels are on a well. There are community wells that the city took over when we took over the water system in 1988. So there's community and municipal wells, but not private wells.
Okay. And then those who are already metered are paying us, I guess, because we have a meter reading, and those who aren't, how are they paying their water?
They're paying, Kevin, I think, had mentioned that there's a master meter, and so there's a master meter that feeds the whole area. We subtract out the metered customers, and then we split the cost of that uncaptured to all the unmetered residences. So and they all have a flat or same cost. So what's happening is there are some residents that may use a lot of water, and they're paying the same cost as the resident next door that may not be using as much water.
And will this potentially raise their monthly rates, or lower, or be more fair in the end?
Yeah, what we found is actually at the neighborhood meeting, there were several, people that had already been metered, and they spoke from experience and said that once they had a meter installed, their bill went down drastically because they're paying for their actual use.
Yeah.
Another gentleman had asked a question, hey, I have this size lot, I have this pool, can you look at similar size lots? And so we did that as well, and found that we looked at 5 other lots, and it ranged from, they were all less. So most residents will pay less by being metered. Now, there are some out there who will use a lot of water that their bill could go up, but the majority of what we've seen is that their bill has been less.
And there's no way to assess the fee and only charge the 335 remaining who still need meters, to charge this installation fee and not spread it across the 1,000 something.
Maybe that is the plan. The plan is to only charge the remaining unmetered residents the cost to install.
Okay, so
the 1,019 that have already had a meter installed, they wouldn't be noticed at all. They've already paid for their meter. They're paying their volumetric rate. It's just the unmetered customers or residents.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. And then the history, why we took over, and then what help can we still get from the county for us taking over this service from them? Anything there?
So the history was back in the late 80s. My understanding is there was some interest to annex this area into the city of Clovis. There was some pressure. I think the Tarpey residents that area wanted to be annexed and hook up to the water system, and there was some discussion with maybe Fresno coming over and annexing. So what we ended up doing is bringing them into our water system. There was also some sewer issues that were going around that time too. So that's the history. We took over the water system. They are still county residents. They have not been annexed to the city, so they are county residents. The only services that we provide is the water service, but we own that entire water system now, the mains, the wells that are in there, the valves, the whole water system.
And the only thing I would add to that was going back to the late 70s and early 80s, at that time, the plan was to have Tarpey annexed into the city. At kind of the 11th hour, the residents of Tarpey said, we don't want to be part of Clovis. And they did not have water, so the decision was made to not annex them, but provide water.
So no hope from the county? Or have we approached them with regards to, Supervisor Manx, with regards to, because it comes out to what, 300, maybe 400,000, $500,000 maybe, right? The cost. I'm looking at just your I just rounded up to 1,000, maybe potentially more for those 300 or so homes.
That's correct. It could be more than that, depending on the bids that come in tomorrow from the contractor. So the county, I don't know at the board level, but at the staff level, they have been involved. We've worked with them. They're aware of this project. We had to get encroachment permits to do this work, and there's a cost to that. So they're well aware of the project. Again, that's been at a staff level though.
Okay. And so because we can't just charge them more for their water bill versus what we charge the rest of the city, I'm assuming. Because they will be metered at the end, right? Ultimately, they will be metered, so there's no way to recoup from these 300 homes other than long-term where it'll just be their monthly bill. But there's no way to increase a certain district or certain area more because of the cost.
And I just want to clarify to make sure, we plan to charge the 300 for the cost of the install.
Well, so we will.
Yeah, so we have bids coming in. It's going to be X number of dollars. We're charging $980. We're estimating that the cost is going to come in higher, say that the number comes in at $1,300.
Yeah.
Our plan is to charge the $314, whatever it is, the $1,200 to switch out to a meter. So they are going to pay for it. I think Councilmember Bester might have gave us storyline. If somebody didn't want to pay, what do we do about that? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but the plan is to charge each one of the 314 property owners the cost to do the meter install.
Over a two-year period of time.
We can do that even without them approving the 218? That's sort of my confusion right now.
With the 218.
That's with the 218. So the
So if 218 fails, then we are with Councilmember Bessinger's scenario where...
okay, yeah, so if the 218 were to fail, I guess what we could take a look at is with a citywide 218, we're going through a water rate study right now, so at that time, we may be able to take a look at, the total system cost, and maybe parse out this area and then have a different volumetric rate to pay back that amount. What we're trying to do right now is
avoid.
Just notify these 330 or whatever it is, notify them of what their fee is, so it's full transparency, and then on their bills, they pay their volumetric rate, and then they'd have this other rate just for the meter install over a 2-year period. That's our staff's recommendation right now, but should the cost come in a lot more, we could do a 3-year, we could entertain something else, but that's kind of the plan right now.
But your question is, there's some way that the county could make us whole, since it's really county, it's a county neighborhood, it's not a state neighborhood, yeah. It's one of the state's better moves, it's interesting. All right, anything else for staff? Thanks, thank you very much. Let's open the public portion. Anybody in the audience wishing to comment on this item? You have to come right back up there. Can you do that again? Sorry. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. And you have to state your name again, just for the record.
Question, with the, Ashland Avenue, this is a historic question. Ashland and Tarpey Village, how long ago was that built? Ashland Avenue, and how far, east does it go? Is it east? Yeah.
The boundaries for Tarpey, is that what you're asking?
Tarpey Village is what I knew it when I was growing up. And those were newer homes back in the 70s, 60s.
I don't know, west to Ashland, maybe?
Of when the pavement and the road was constructed, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But the structures, that was a suburb when I grew up. New homes back in, when I was growing up, Tarpey Village, exclusively down Ashland Avenue.
Yeah.
How long ago?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I was old. I'm 68, so you don't have an answer. Is that what, do I need to just contact your office to get info?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the track map is in the mid-50s, so I think a lot of those homes are built in the 50s. But for more accurate information, I'd suggest I can give you my card and my contact information.
And do those people have meters in their homes already, or are you guys going to make them get it?
I think what this says is that about 1,000 of them already have meters, and there's a remainder of 300 and some, 94 or so that don't have meters. So we're really talking about that remainder now. The rest have already gone to meters.
So are we talking history when we are talking about the 300? Is that going back to the ones who don't have it now, or are already installed with the 1,080 or whatever you said?
Are we talking history? What is that? I'm not following that.
Okay, you said that 1,000 some already had the meters installed.
Right.
Is that going toward Clovis Avenue, or is that going back to where Tarpey Village was first started?
It's all throughout. What am I answering this question for? It's all throughout Tarpey Village. I know a little bit about this. So it's really from, let's call it Peach, on the west, and let's call it Sunnyside on the east.
And not further than back to Fowler then, huh?
No. And it's right along that Ashland kind of corridor, off into those neighborhoods,
Yeah, that used to be an exclusive area. I know that. That's how old I am.
Yeah, so it's that vicinity, and a little over 1,000 already have meters, and it's this remainder that we're trying to get at today.
So we're saying the people who originally built there, like back up the Sunnyside and Ashland, have new meters that they have to install, or they're already taking?
They already have them, and they got them. It seemed like, what did you say, Paul, 1908? When did you say, Kevin? When did we install the first round with the Tarpey Water Services?
Yeah, we started in 1991, and we've been installing them ever since.
1991. So we've been working our way along, and now we have this remainder that we need to be compliant with the state law.
And so would most of the people, like children or grandchildren, be paying paying for them, the ones that originally owned the home.
No, whoever is the property owner today.
Today.
Is that right? How am I doing? Not bad, huh? Whoever owns the property today.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, anyone else wishing to comment on this item? You don't usually let me go that far off on my own. I'm sure you're like, oh, what is she gonna say now? Oh, no. Oh, no. All right, we'll close I'm sorry, did you want to comment on this? No? Yes? No? Okay. We'll close the public portion, and bring it back to council, looking for authorization to proceed with this Prop 218 hearing.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to proceed with a Prop 218 public hearing and majority protest vote to implement a water meter installation fee to unmetered parcels in Tarpey Village.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 12, consider approval or request to approve the Beeheimer Sunnyside Southwest Reorganization Annexation Agreement and to authorize the city manager and city attorney to make minor modifications to the agreement as necessary. Lily Chaw is our staff tonight, our senior planner. Hi, Lily.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor. Good
Yep.
evening, council members. I'll try to make this brief for you. So as you can recall, on May 20th, council approved the annexation of about 246 acres of properties, and that's otherwise known as the Beeheimer Sunnyside Southwest Reorganization. And that annexation was in association with the project Tract Map 6343. At that time, council also directed staff to continue to work with the 6 impacted property owners on an annexation agreement. And so after several weeks of going back and forth, working with PDS staff and public utility staff and the city attorney, we were able to work out an agreement that will work for both the city and the property owners. And with that said, we are here before you this evening to request your approval of that annexation template, which was provided to you as attachment 1 in staff's report. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Lily. Agreement is always good. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Vaughn, question for staff.
Great work on that. And I think when they came in, the applicant and a lot of the property owners were already in discussion, so thank you. My one question is, does this agreement now is the one that is used for all other property owners potentially in this area, because there's a lot of other parcels?
So this, it pertains to the properties in this annexation boundary that have people actually living there, which just includes these 6 properties.
Okay, so the other property owners, they don't have this then?
No, we haven't been approached with a request for anything specific. I think all those other properties are either that very large basin or their future development.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Any other questions for staff? Open the public portion. Anybody in the audience wishing to comment on this particular item? Please. Yeah, can you push that button? There you go. There you go.
I wanted to find out how much of this area that you were wanting to utilize is farmland, because I've heard it on PBS where their land is being taken away from them and built up for suburbs and like shopping centers, etc. And that goes on. When I was growing up, Herndon Avenue used to be where farmland went all the way orchards and vineyards. Now I can't recognize that place. So is that going to be the way that looks after you guys put your hands on it?
So this area here is historically farmed generally. There's a very large basin that makes up about, I believe it was 80 acres of this total boundary. So all of that is a flood basin. But the other parts, the properties are located in the city's planned growth area, urban growth. So the city has already determined that eventually all the agriculture in this area will go away and we would have development.
And then what about with the curbs and the, street, the way they are currently built now around the houses where they go down? And as a person that utilizes the walker now, I appreciate that. Will that be going up when you guys are building homes over there, when they get built?
Yes, so with development comes circulation and, planned circulation, which would include city, full streets with sidewalks.
Because on Herndon Avenue, you'll get something that's developed, and the next thing you'll have is a steel post that has rail on it, and it has that sign that says no pedestrians on Herndon Avenue. So it's hard to get around on that street, even though that's supposed to be a developed area where I walk around where the graveyard is, going towards, so
Villa.
Bullard or down Villa there in front of the cemetery?
not Bullard, I'm talking Herndon.
So going that way,
Yes,
on Villa?
where that San Joaquin Law or some colleges over there, yeah, going over in that direction. You'll see city streets and curbs, and the next thing they'll have that post rail with the sign, no pedestrians. You gotta get off and try to cross the street and go over there where they did build up sidewalks and curbs.
Thanks for your...
Address that and for the future dates, as of 2025 and thereon, is whenever you put that up, make sure everybody gets, equal curb and the slants of the sidewalks put in when they build homes.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on this particular item? Close the public portion and bring it back to the council.
Motion to approve the Beheimer Sunnyside Southwest Reorganization Annexation Agreement and to authorize the city manager and city attorney to make minor modifications to the agreement as necessary. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 in favor. Under public hearings tonight, we have one item, and it is item number 13, and I'm going to read it to the record, and then I'm going to invite Councilmember Baskel to explain his recusal from this item. Item number 13 is consider items associated with approximately 333 acres of land located adjacent to the north side of Highway 168 from Armstrong Avenue to Owens Mountain Parkway, otherwise known as the City of Clovis Research and Technology Park. Various property owners and the City of Clovis is the applicant. Matt, why don't you, I'll spare you hearing me read the rest of it. Why don't you recuse yourself now, and then I'll keep going.
So I'm going to need to recuse myself because I am employed by California Health Science University. That is part of the topics of discussion for future housing elements and whatnot. So it's probably best that I recuse at this point.
Thank you so much. Item A is approval of General Plan Amendment 2021-007, a request to amend the general plan to correctly designate the Research and Technology Park boundary in Focus Area 6, incorporate amendments allowing campus-affiliated housing within the Research and Technology Park, and include the existing PCC and PF zone districts as consistent zone districts within the MU-BC land use designation. And item B, ordinance amendment to 2021-004, a request to amend the Clovis Development Code as a cleanup action to further define the MU-BC land use designation. Mixed use, what's the BC stand for? Give me a hint.
Business campus.
I knew that. It was a test. You did it. Mixed use business campus land use designation to allow for certain ancillary campus affiliated housing uses in the RT zone district. Add development standards for the campus affiliated housing uses and establish an RT overlay zone district. Item C, rezone 2021-010, a request to rezone approximately 63 properties inconsistently zoned within the designated Research and Technology Park plan area from the RA, R1AH, R1 7500, R1 8500, and CP zone districts to the RT zone district or the RT overlay zone district. And finally, consider approval for the request to amend the Clovis Research and Technology Architectural Guidelines to add development and design standards for campus-affiliated housing consistent with the General Plan and Development Code. Staff tonight on this item is Mackenzie Perez, Senior Planner, and joined by Dave Merchant, our Planner, and Renee Mathis, our Director of Planning and Development Services. Team, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Mackenzie Perez with the Planning and Development Services Department. Before I begin the presentation, I did want to note, I think you mentioned it, Mayor, at the beginning of the meeting, that you do have a couple of items that were on the dais related to this item from public comments. So before I begin the discussion on what the R2 Park Cleanup Project consists of, I just wanted to provide a little bit of background in regards to the RT Park. So in 1997, Council directed staff to evaluate establishing 180 acres of land as the RT Business Park. Then in 1998, a feasibility study was completed, and Council directed staff to proceed with implementation of that RT Park. In 1999, the first 80 acres of the 180 were rezoned to the RT Park to be consistent with the mixed-use business campus land use. And then in 2001, that was in 2001 where the 80 acres were rezoned. In 2008, the RT Park Architectural Design Guidelines were adopted by Council. In 2009, an additional 150 acres were added to the RT Park boundary, which totaled 330 acres. Then in 2014, the Clovis General Plan was updated and inadvertently mislabeled the RT Park boundary. And in 2016, the city approved an administrative use permit for the CHSU Campus Master Plan, and as part of the master plan, it included 24 acres of campus-affiliated housing. In 2021, Council directed staff to correct the land use and zoning inconsistencies on the remaining parcels within RT Park and to explore campus-affiliated housing with CHSU. That same year, the city entered into an MOU agreement with CHSU and Proctor Campus Holdings for campus development, and that included 70 acres of campus-affiliated housing. So this is just an aerial of the RT Park. So as you see on the screen here, that's the original 180 acres that were designated to mixed use in 1999. And the area in yellow are the properties that were rezoned to RT in 2001 and 2007. And then in 2009, the 150 acres that were added for the expansion of RT Park. So the entire area outlined in red is part of the RT Park boundary. So the purpose of the RT Park cleanup is to modify the general plan and development code so that they're consistent with what the goals are for RT Park. So one of the things with the general plan is that it corrects the RT Park boundary for Focus Area 6. A focus area is an area as part of the city that allows flexibility by providing modified development standards and expanding permissible uses. The general plan amendment will also clarify language within the plan related to the RT Park. Both the zoning ordinance amendment and the RT Park design guidelines will be modified to include development standards for campus-affiliated housing. The ordinance amendment will also clarify language in the definition of a school. The rezone, as I mentioned earlier, will correct the inconsistencies between the land use and zone districts on 63 parcels within RT Park. So the RT Park cleanup does streamline feature development and correct inconsistencies between the general plan and the development code. What the RT Park cleanup does not do is it does not approve a specific project, rather it lays the foundation for future projects to apply for entitlements or permits. So with the general plan amendment, there are multiple tables within the document that will be supposed to be modified. Those are specifically outlined within the staff report. Those include adding language in regards to educational and residential uses being ancillary to a school that include campus-affiliated housing. It will also add the PCC and PF zone districts as consistent zone districts as part of the mixed-use business campus land use in this focus area. So an example of what that looks like is on the screen here. Here's one of the tables. It's LU2 that will show you what's existing and what's being proposed language that's shown out in red underlined. The other two tables that are proposed to be rezoned or modified will be are included in your staff report. The last item in regards to the plan amendment is to modify the focus area figure within the general plan. As you see on the screen, Focus Area 6 only includes the expanded area of the RT Park. It does not include the original 180 acres that's outlined in red, and that's what we're proposing to be modified to include the area in red and the area in green for Focus Area 6. The ordinance amendment further defines the RT zone district to clarify the allowance of campus-affiliated housing. It will also add development standards for the campus-affiliated housing for both the single-family and multifamily components. And it's also creating an RT overlay zone district for those properties that will add the RT overlay. So with the ordinance amendment, it will create and maintain consistency among the plans. So with the rezone, again, 63 properties are proposed to be rezoned to be consistent with the mixed-use business campus land use. Property owners within the RT Park that had inconsistent zoning were provided 3 options. The first was to rezone to RT. The second was to retain their base residential district and have an RT overlay. For example, it would be R1AH/RT. And then option 3 was essentially option 2 plus a rezone agreement. Again, there were 63 properties. The majority of those will be changed to RT, and then we have about 22 of those properties that are proposing the RT overlay.
Mackenzie, just for clarification,
Sure.
Those 63 properties are those that are not designated for campus-affiliated housing. Is that correct?
Well, right now they're not zoned consistently with the mixed-use business campus.
So 63 properties are separate from the properties that are designated potentially for campus-affiliated housing.
No, some of these 63 properties include the campus-affiliated housing.
So there's this cleanup, and then there's a subsequent action to rezone more specifically if we pursue the housing.
No, this would be the cleanup. This is it. And I'll kind of go over a little bit in this next slide maybe with the image that shows you which parcels are going to be rezoned.
Okay, I don't see that as an option up there, but all right.
So option 1 would be RT. So RT is the consistent zoning designation to mixed use. So the properties that would allow campus-affiliated housing would be designated RT.
Oh, so they wouldn't have a housing-related designation from the at the
Correct.
base? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks.
So here's just a zoning exhibit that shows the area of RT. So that area in red is the RT Park boundary. Those properties right now, they're kind of in the grayish color, the darkish area. That's the existing RT. Those are the properties that were designated back in the earlier 2000s. So the area in black, so I'll just kind of maybe add that back. Those areas are the 63 properties that are going to be rezoned. And then these properties here are the ones that are going to RT. So you see all that gray, that's going to be the RT designation. And then the remaining yellow, purple, and green, so I'll just kind of go back there again. Those are going to retain, those property owners have elected to retain their base residential zone district and add the RT overlay. So the rezone, for properties that have elected to add the overlay, they'll be able to maintain their existing single-family uses. The potential of increase in property value for those properties will be by expanding the allowable land uses, by rezoning the property to have that RT overlay. So a property may be marketable if and when it's sold. So if and when the property is sold, there would be no need for rezoning at that time, as long as the property owner develops under the RT standards or maintains their single-family use. The rezone is at no cost to those property owners. Property owners will not be able to intensify the single-family use of their property by, for example, by further subdividing the property. They will be allowed to add ancillary uses like sheds, pools, accessory dwelling units, things like that. The intensification provision currently exists within our development code. So the design guidelines would be updated to include the development standards for campus housing that we're proposing through the ordinance amendment, so that way they'll be consistent between both documents. So a finding of consistency pursuant to section 15183 of the CEQA guidelines was prepared for this RT Park cleanup. So the RT Park was previously analyzed under 2 separate EIRs, one in 1999 for the original 180 acres, and then one in 2009 for the expanded 150 acres. Then in 2014, a general plan EIR was considered, and it considered the associated impacts with the mixed-use business campus designation of the RT Park. So no physical development is proposed as part of this project. The project includes text changes that will clarify the city's policy and the ancillary uses permitted with schools and universities. So staff had several neighborhood meetings, 2 in 2021, 3 in 2022, and 1 in 2024. The item also went before the Planning Commission in June of this year and was recommended approval to council with a 401 vote with 1 commissioner absent. So at those meetings, there were several items of concern raised, so the majority being related to campus-affiliated housing. There was also concerns related to the continuation of the residential use and property values, as well as impacts to noise, utilities, and schools, an increase in traffic and crime, and then that no EIR was prepared for the RT Park cleanup. So in regards to the continuation of the residential use, so properties that have an overlay may continue to use their property as a residential use. Again, as I mentioned, intensifying the single-family use would not be permitted, for example, by subdividing, and required findings for land use and zoning do not include the evaluation of property values. That's why it was not considered as part of the analysis. So in regards to noise, utilities, and school impacts, we do have noise mitigation measures and noise requirements outlined in our development code that future development projects will be required to comply with. Sewer and water lines exist along Nees, Temperance, and Alluvial. Any future development will require connections to those facilities. Future development will also be required to provide water and sewer analysis to determine what facilities will be required. Future development will also be routed to the Clovis Unified School District, and they will provide comments, and the developer will actually be required to pay school impact fees as well. So in regards to an increase in traffic and crime, so because there's no specific development for the project, we do not know the exact impact. So at the time a project is submitted for development, traffic impacts will be analyzed at that time. We don't have any evidence that's been provided that outlines that an increase in crime is related to campus housing. In regards to the EIR preparation for the project, as I mentioned, individual projects will be assessed and required to comply with CEQA at the time a project application is submitted. So for example, an amended AUP that would be required for future development will require the appropriate environmental assessment to be prepared. Now, lastly, the item that's the biggest concern is related to campus-affiliated housing. So we currently have an existing administrative use permit and MOU that outline defining features for the housing. So there's a requirement within the MOU that there's a covenant that's required that will ensure that CHSU will have the first right of availability for 30 days. Appropriate entitlements will be required prior to construction of any project. So that includes tract map, site plan review, or multifamily design review process. One of the other concerns related to height of the housing, specifically the multifamily housing on the west side of Temperance. So the way that staff had originally developed the development standards was for the single family, we were going to use the existing R1MD development standards. And for the multifamily, we were using the R3 development standards. So originally, the height requirement for the R3 is 45 feet and 3 stories. And that was what was proposed and shown at Planning Commission. Since then, we did have a neighborhood meeting, and we did have neighbors express concern regarding the height. So staff is recommending that we lower that to 35 feet and 2 stories, and that's outlined in the report and the ordinance amendment as well. One of the other concerns was related to setbacks. So we do have a mitigation measure that requires a 200-foot setback abutting residential. This can be reduced with a noise study, and there is no mention of a minimum setback. However, staff is proposing that in no case shall it be less than 50 feet. So that language is also included in the staff report as well. So just to go over a little bit about the AUP and MOU, again, those aren't before the council tonight, but I do think it's important to provide a little bit of background. So in 2016, again, the AUP was approved for the CHSU campus. A school is...
Will you say what that means? Administrative use permit?
Administrative use permit, yeah.
And the MOU?
Say that again, sorry?
And MOU?
Yes, and the MOU.
Memorandum of Understanding?
Memorandum of Understanding, sorry.
That's okay.
So yes, the AUP was approved in 2016, and it permits a school in the RT Park subject to an administrative use permit. And that included 24 acres of campus-affiliated housing. And then in 2021, the Memorandum of Understanding Agreement was signed by the city and CHSU to provide a master plan for the campus, and that plan included 70 acres of campus housing. Again, the MOU included a clause that there needs to be a 30-day right of availability to CHSU. So this MOU went before the City Council in 2021, and it was approved with a 5-0 vote. As I mentioned earlier, there are no changes that are proposed to the MOU or the AUP at this time. So here's just an exhibit of the 2016 AUP campus plan. As you see on the top right, that's the 24 acres that was planned for campus housing. And then here is the 2021 MOU campus plan. So it's a little bit modified. You'll see the 50 acres of housing on Locan and Nees on the right side of the image, and then on the west side of Temperance is about 20 acres for multifamily campus housing. So findings are required to be made for the general plan amendment ordinance and rezone. Those are specified in detail in the staff report. One thing to note is that these items will correct inconsistencies between the general plan and development code and bring the city's RT Park into alignment with the goals of the city of Clovis. So the next step, so if the cleanup is approved, so CHSU would need to come back and submit additional entitlements. One of those is an amendment to the administrative use permit, which is required to modify the campus. Again, the original AUP was only for 24 acres, and the MOU was for 70, so they would need to come back and modify the AUP to reflect the 70 acres. As part of that amendment, they would also be required to submit a phasing plan that will be reviewed and approved by the city. In regards to an AUP and noticing, we do notify property owners within 300 feet of the campus boundary. However, if anyone elects to be added to that list, they can come see me after the meeting, and I can take on their address to include them in the notification. Staff is recommending that the AUP be brought to the City Council for approval. Typically, an AUP is approved at the director level. So in order to develop single-family residential, the applicant would need to submit for a tract map to subdivide the property. And for multifamily units, it would either be a multifamily design review process or a site plan review process, and those are approved at the staff level. The tract map does come before the Planning Commission. So staff recommends that the City Council approve the resolutions and ordinances for the GPA ordinance amendment and rezone and the amendment to the RT Park guidelines. We also recommend that the City Council review and consider the AUP amendment once that is submitted for processing. That concludes my presentation. If staff's here to answer any questions.
The AUP amendment, though, is not on our agenda tonight.
Correct.
Got it. Thanks, Mackenzie. Are there questions for staff?
Yes, I have some. Okay. Thank you, Mackenzie. That's an excellent report. Can you go to slide 26? I think that was when we had the rezone and we added a couple. Okay.
This slide?
So, yes. So when we added the others, was that staff initiated as well? These actions?
Yes.
It was staff initiated?
Yes.
And today it's also staff initiated with direction from council?
Correct.
To correct, sort of make it so it's in alignment with the RT Park?
Correct.
Okay. And is a cleanup action typically staff-driven, or is it applicant-driven as well when they bring something up?
It could be both. It just depends on what the inconsistency is. But typically, those are city-driven or city-initiated. But if there is an item that needs to be cleaned up, that may be something that a private applicant will be able to discuss with staff.
Okay. And so the actions before us with regards to cleaning up the general plan, with regards to ordinance amendment and the rezone, it's typical, in other words, for staff to see inconsistencies and to bring it before us, so that way, sort of everything is correct, and that way there's no inconsistencies.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then with regards to the rezone, the other property owners have agreed to elect either option 1, 2, or 3, and those are the options we gave them, and because they've elected those, they fit within sort of the RT designation, just that they may still use it longer. They have an agreement that they will still use it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that is correct. We did give all property owners within the boundary the option, and we do have written selection from all property owners. If we didn't have written selection, then I reached out to those property owners to verify what their selection was to confirm their option.
And then are there those who are not affiliated with this medical school who chose option 1 to go directly to RT?
Yes.
There are, okay. And are there a lot of them? Do you know?
There's 41 of the 63 that elected to go to RT. Between, I don't know, I wouldn't say the majority are properties that are campus-affiliated housing sites.
The majority are, okay. And then,
You would, say that again, you
no,
would
not.
They're
Yeah,
not.
the majority are not.
oh, the majority
Yeah,
are not.
because I don't know if you can see.
Page.
Yeah, so this section here is 1, right? So it goes up to here. So there's, I think maybe like, 7, 8 properties here, and then this one here.
Okay.
So you still have all of these down here, and then there are a couple down here, and then all the properties here that are not part of the campus-affiliated housing.
Okay.
Some of them are RT, some of them have elected to keep their base.
And those who choose option 2 and 3 can continue their current use forever if they've kept living in it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, even those that have elected RT, if they have a single-family existing use, they can still, it's just they're considered legal non-conforming, but they'd still be able to use their residence.
All right. And then with regards to the GPA, then because it's adding certain definitions, certain uses, is that why that is also brought before us? Because the actual general plan didn't have all those designations?
Yeah, we're clarifying it, so we're just specifically adding that language. The city has made a determination back in 2016 that as part of a school, campus housing is ancillary to that. And so essentially what we're doing is we're just clarifying that within the documents, both the general plan and the development code.
And that was noticed, like you said, back in 2016 already,
in
correct?
2016 is when we made the determination that if a school is permitted, campus housing is an ancillary use to a school.
Okay. And then my last question is, with regards to the, and I know it's not before us, with regards to the MOU, is there a way to add conditions, change some of the terms at all, or is that, are we pretty much confined to it?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. So there is a provision in the MOU that would allow us to open it back up with the school as long as we could agree with the school on appropriate modifications that then would come back to council. But it would be a mutual agreement.
Okay.
So there is that provision.
And then my last question, Mackenzie, is there was comments with regards to why an EIR is not required. Can you just go over that just so that we are clear why, because of these cleanup actions, it's not triggering an actual EIR?
Yeah, so we're not doing any physical development, or there's no physical development proposed as part of this project. What we're doing is we're adding language to clearly specify the city's interpretation of what a school permits. So we're specifically outlining that in both the general plan and the development code. So because of that, we relied on the 2 previous EIRs that were specifically done for the project. Those mitigation measures are applicable to development within the RT park, so they would still apply. So when a project comes in that's actually proposing development, like the AUP, that would be analyzed at that time, and the appropriate level of environmental analysis would be done at that time. And so that's why staff elected to do the finding of consistency.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, I think Mackenzie's done a great job of describing the need for the cleanup. You've had quite a few questions, and just to further highlight, without the cleanup, if a development were to come forward, it would be on the individual project proponent to request the rezone for the consistency. If there was an inconsistency, that's time and that's money. That would be on a project-specific basis. So through staff's actions tonight that are before you, we are really trying to clean everything up to streamline any future development within the area that hasn't already been rezoned to the RT park. So if we aren't able to do the cleanup, then projects could still move forward. They would just have to pay the cost of the rezone and the time it would take to clean up the inconsistencies.
And just for clarity, it's any development out in the RT park, not housing. I know that much of the energy is around housing, but anything. If I wanted to build a medical research institute or whatever it would be, if the property that I'd chosen and had an agreement to use was not zoned, it would be anything, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Vaughn?
No, and then with regards to the environmental, so then if a project in the future really triggered some detriment to the environment, then we may and potentially will require a full study if that is needed.
Yes, so the way it works
is... That's never out of the question.
Yes.
So today's action just says, the language, all that we're doing is good, but a project can still require it if they don't check all the boxes in the future.
Correct, and based off of those studies would determine the level of review.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mackenzie.
Any other questions for staff? So let's open it to the public, just for gauging. How many are here to speak to the item that we're talking about? Okay. And I bet all those hands are about housing. Yeah, most of them? Okay. All right, so what I would invite you to do is maybe line up a couple at a time, try to keep you to 3 minutes or less. We do have the petition. I quickly did math because it's about 160 people signing in opposition to this, to the housing. And I think I'll just say this as honestly as I can. The disconnect here is, I understand the disconnect. That AUP that we've talked about was done at the staff level and didn't make its way to the council till 2001. No, 21, sorry. So I totally understand that disconnect. So I think that's the elephant in the room that we're trying to work out. There's an MOU that says this is all moving ahead, and we want to be fair and hear what you have to say, because I'm not sure that's really occurred. That's the Lynn Ashbeck view. So thank you for being here. Let's hear it, and then let's see if we can find a way forward. So all are welcome. 3 minutes, and name and address, and go. Thank you.
My name is David Wright, address 2355 Fallbrook Avenue. First, I want to commend the city staff for their transparency and access to historical documentation, also for listening in during the public meetings to a lot of the comments being made and some of the changes that we've seen just come about, we learn about today. Second, I want to commend the City Council back in 2020 when they met in November. The Council directed staff to work with CHSU to further define the need for timing for campus housing and the identification of appropriate mechanisms to tie campus housing to the university. Additional policy direction from the Council included the following, and this comes directly from the meeting minutes. Craft guardrails that would create a better tie between housing and CHSU than was identified in the initial concept. Ensure student and faculty housing is necessary and essential, noting that market rate single-family residential is not permitted in the RT Park. Address whether student and faculty housing should be phased for demand as campus expands. Address the questions whether student housing should be restricted to CHSU students. If not, should there be a percentage restricted to CHSU students? And work with the applicant to develop a master plan on campus housing. You all did that, and I commend you for putting those forward. Some of the things that got missed out of the historical background, but I do appreciate the background being presented by the staff. was that, during, the January meeting in 2021, no mention of campus-affiliated housing was identified. But in the February meeting, a part of number 5 was shown that they did meet with the CHUS. However, since that above date, I've attended all 4 of the public neighborhood meetings, 1 planning council meeting, and the city staff has not addressed in complete all of these bullets that has been asked for by city council. I appreciate the council having said that. They have not clearly defined what is meant by university-affiliated housing, nor created any guardrails for the housing, whether they be students versus public, new housing versus existing neighborhoods, phase plans, or any of those sorts of things, and no specific definitions of what university-affiliated housing actually means. Does it mean they just have the same name, University Arms, or something like that? Is it how many students would be there? What happens when there's more demand on students than there is possibly there? What is the ratio, again, to the public? Since the staff is, city staff has not met almost all of the above requests of the city council, I strongly recommend that the council not approve the additions of the university-affiliated housing to the R&T Park until the above requests have been met that the council has requested. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Appreciate your comments. Next. If we get a little line going, might move a little quicker. A line of a few, not like 10, but 3 or 4 at a time, and that way we can make sure everybody gets a chance to be heard, if you don't mind.
Mayor, can I ask the staff to follow up with regards to what Mr. Wright just said? What is the detriment in the delay of correcting all this? In other words, you know, is it the horse before the cart, or we can still have it and still have the discussion of what the details of sort of the AUP, the MOU? And so, because we're going to have to do this no matter what, is what I'm understanding, but is there a detriment in delaying it at all? Can you share?
Yeah, so it would hold up development for the majority of the parcels within RT Park because they don't have the consistent zoning. So if we had a developer that came in on any part of the RT Park boundary that wasn't designated RT, so those 63 properties, any of those property owners that wanted to develop under the RT would need to come in and rezone on their own. So the cleanup will make everything consistent so that way it will streamline development.
Thank you. I forgot that it's the entire park.
And Mackenzie, do we have any of those development requests in the queue right now?
No, we don't have any formal applications for development.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Please, your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is David Gilmore. I'm an attorney in Fresno. I represent Martin and Debbie Britz, who are present here in the council chambers tonight. In your agenda packet, you'll or should see 2 letters that I have sent, one to the Planning Commission and one to this council, challenge appealing this recommendation from the Planning Commission. To use kind of a folksy term, you can put lipstick on the pig, but it's still a pig. And the problem with this description of this project as a cleanup is a disguise to change the entire project, the entire scope of the project. You have 333 acres that are supposed to be a research and technology park, which are now being described as we're going to clean all this up so we can have campus-affiliated housing and other developments within that 333 acres with no guidelines whatsoever. And you can't, your own staff describes this as a project. This is a project to reconstitute the development of this property. You're using environmental analyses that were done in 1999 and 2009 to assess this project. You cannot do that. Under the guise of a cleanup, you cannot make a wholesale change in the project. And by so doing, you are ignoring 25 years of growth and development in this area. One of the things you have to do in an environmental assessment is to look at the cumulative impacts of what you're doing. So So by doing the way the staff is recommending this, you say, well, we're just gonna divide it up into small little projects as we go. We'll approve the big picture, and then we'll do these small little projects. So you avoid having to do the analysis you need to do of the cumulative impacts of this project. You're talking about 650 housing units potentially being built in an area that was never originally designated for that kind of development, without doing a single study about traffic, about noise, about water, about sewer, about air. None of that is being assessed at all. So you have neighborhoods of, well-established neighborhoods of folks that have lived there for decades who are now being confronted with this possibility that what the city is going to do is to approve this project and push it through at no expense to the developer, mind you, because we're going to have the staff. In my opinion, what the staff is doing is the developer's work. The developer wants to have the property rezoned. The developer should apply to have it rezoned and go through the process like everybody else and pay all the fees that are required to be paid to do that. Instead, the developer's having the staff do its work for him. And so when you look at what's going on here, this is not just a cleanup. As the gentleman before me noted on the campus-affiliated housing, there are no guidelines whatsoever. There is nothing in this that would require that the housing that be built have anything to do with the campus. Not a thing.
Can I ask you to wrap it up just one sentence more? This isn't Congress.
Well, my client was going to give me his time too, but I mean, that's, to me though, it's just, you have to step back from this. You're going through this process to avoid the required studies under CEQA. And if you did those studies, there would be lots of mitigation, not just whether it's 200-foot setback or 50 setback or how high it might be. This massive development that's occurred in this area over the last 25 years, and you can't avoid that by doing what you're trying to do, which is to divide it up into these discrete little parts and say, okay, well, that discrete little part doesn't cause a problem. So I urge you not to approve this. I think the city is running a serious risk that is going to get sued if it approves this project without complying, at least without complying with CEQA. Thank you.
I'll count you as the Brits family, two of them. And I would ask you that if you would hold your applause, just let everyone have a voice. Go ahead. Hi.
Hi, my
Hi.
name's Katrina Olson. I live at 2548 Kenosha Avenue. I'm north of the RT Park just a little bit. I don't understand all this stuff, but get some general ideas. So this is the conclusion I've kind of come to and what I wanted to express. I'm not opposed to the idea that it's zoned residential and we want to make it RT, and that I don't have a problem with how the RT is now. It's the addition to all the housing components being added to the RT district that I'm opposed to. I purchased there knowing the RT Park was there, and I'm not opposed to the RT Park. I think it has some great potential. As previously mentioned, though, there's not clear wording limiting that the housing is for the students. It's very vague. It's not in the MOU specifically, and it's definitely not in the zoning. And I also think, from the wording I'm reading in the zoning, it seems kind of odd to me that it specifically calls out that you can only do it if you are in conjunction with the California Health Science University, and it seems kind of odd to me that in the zoning ordinance, we're going to be very particular to one particular property owner or agency or entity or whatever you want to call it, versus general, you may do this in the zoning district. I think that's, I don't know if inappropriate is the right word or wrong word, but it just seems very odd and uncomfortable to me that certain rights are be given to them directly and not to others, and that doesn't seem like it would have a place in zoning ordinance in general. So, I just wanted to express my opposition to the housing component of it with the way that it's worded right now, and I think it does need to be revisited, and maybe part of it could be approved with just adjusting or rezoning to where the RT is now, but the housing component of it I am not comfortable with right now, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Hello, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor and the council members. My name is Brian Watt. I'm at 3191 Salem Avenue. I'm just north of the RT Park. I guess my biggest issue is the housing issue. You guys, I'm really annoyed with the way it's defined. Campus-affiliated housing makes it sound like dorms. So we're going to have these college students wanting to become doctors. That is a big fat lie, because it is not, that you guys put it right in your MOU or your AUP, 30 days. Mr. Asemi came out to one of the meetings. I've attended every one of these meetings. I asked him, what would your apartments look like? Or what do you charge now in Fresno? And in 2002, which inflation has sure as hell gone up, said that he would charge over $2,000 for a one-bedroom. I don't know about you, but when I was in college, there was no way I could afford over $2,500, $3,000 one-bedroom apartment. It's a for-profit college that Asemi owns or is part of, is the head guy there. And now Granville owns all the land, so it's not sugar-coated either. Granville bought up all the land. He's got all those little signs up there, Granville property, no trespassing. Let him pay for it to rezone this. I like what the lawyer guy was saying. So we're putting the cart before the horse. Build the college, define. If we're going to open this thing up and define what everything is, let's define what campus housing is, because you're making it sound like it's dorms. It's not dorms, and there's no way that college in the next 10 to 20 years is going to need 70 acres of housing, okay? There is way too many homes out there. It's a money grab for Asemi. Granville Homes is just feeding himself. He's just doing it. And oh, by the way, I'd also like to point out, Asemi Group and Granville are your largest donors over the last 3 years. So I know it's out of the 12-month window, because I looked it up on every date the last time you guys got donations. So it's kind of almost, you guys are in here because of us, the people. You guys are supposed to represent the people. I don't think any person here is for this housing. I'm okay with the campus. If you're going to make it and define it as dorms and where staff can only live there, then let's do that, because that's what you're selling it to the public. It's not, I don't know. I'm just frustrated. I really want you guys to hear us, and I really hope that we redefine it. Why don't we open up the MOU or the AUP? Because it's not defined. And I think everyone in here, that's what they're upset about, because this is just going to be Granville Homes. They're finishing up the development right behind my property, and they're just looking for their next 70 acres to develop. That's all it is. And he's sugarcoating it, making it sound like it's campus housing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Marie Gillard. I live at 2567 Kenosha. I basically am going to reinforce what you've been hearing already. I'm asking that all the concerns that were made at the June 2024 planning meeting be addressed prior to council's approval. And I'm especially concerned, as you've been hearing, that there's no EIR being prepared, and they're saying because we'll wait till there's an impact. But the language itself being used is, to me, creating an impact, and that especially as you keep hearing campus associated or related housing. That's creating this concern without having an impact report being done. Second, I'd like to say I did watch your interview in July, Mayor, and you stated that the city of Clovis is bringing tech jobs to the valley by participating in a partnership with semiconductor company. Well, that's exciting. So will all those jobs be created in Clovis? And if so, where would this technology expansion be? Especially if we're giving away some of this designated land that, as you've said, for over 20 years has been designated as a tech park. This seems to be a viable use for the tech park land rather than possibly this housing component. And obviously, I'm going to state this, we're saying that the city of Fresno will be getting the jobs, and then that the Clovis community will be providing a workforce that will commute to those jobs in Fresno? I hope not, because I think that the city of Clovis has a great opportunity to finally develop this tech park. And it would be unfortunate to let this chance to bring jobs for and to Clovis slip away from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not want you to approve the cleanup
Noted.
measures.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Winona Barretto, and I live at 2385 Fallbrook Avenue. Our property abuts the technology park. When we bought in 1999, we had no idea that there was going to be a technology park there. So when I started hearing the language, we did attend the meeting in 2021 and found out about some of the renovations that were described. And just as my neighbor, Mr. Wright, had talked about, we have those very same concerns about all of the things that were mentioned at that and that have not been mentioned in any of the provisions that they have described about what needs to be done. I have a lot of concerns, too, about the impact studies that have not been done. I mean, the most recent one is 2009. There's been a lot of progress that has happened in the last 20-some years since, and we need to really know how it's going to impact our community. I have concerns also about the affiliation of the student housing. That was very evident to me that a 30-day window, that's it, that you're going to have for student housing, and then it can be open to anybody. That was very concerning to us as well. So I think you've heard this before. We have those concerns, and we really ask that you not approve the program until some of these things have been identified. Okay?
Thank you, Ms. Brother. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Bob Davis, 2878 Enterprise. My issue is very simple: inconsistencies. I appreciate council members doing a little, trying to clarify and misdirect tonight, but it's a waste of words. If you look back, the language is written. It was the council who directed the city to look into this project. My problem is you keep calling it a cleanup. There's one person who benefits from this, and only one. That is not the city of Clovis I grew up in. And I am calling, I'll ask, okay, I'll be polite. I'm asking for you to take on a moral compass here and look within inside yourself, because that college was approved in 16. In 19, November 29th, 2019, council voted on the housing in this RT park, and you denied it. Somehow, Santa Claus came. Early 2020, you seemed to change your mind, and that's when the process began. In early 2021, it is on record. You can listen to it. It was said, city council member, obviously to Darius Assemi, there was no one else this could have gone to. Well, you gave us our college, so now I guess we need to give you your apartments. Come on. This is a democracy. This is not the way things are done. If it didn't benefit only one person, in fact, I was in business for 36 years in this town. That is a for-profit university. Great. I admire it. But why is the city responsible for all these side kudos? For giving him the only right, as Granville Homes, the developer, to that property, and sidestepping developing fees. I mean, it just goes on and on from there. So I'm calling on you to not approve this and to dig deeper, please.
Thank you so much.
Evening. My name's Ron Wells. I live in a residence that abuts what would be someplace that's 2 or 3 story apartments, depending upon the description, looking down into my backyard. I can provide my address at a different time if that would be appropriate. I want to make sure, based on the limited time, that I don't get caught up in being sidetracked on the housing issue, because the fallback position that you all have is that we're not deciding any housing issue. All we're deciding on is the cleanup. And so that's what I want to talk about very briefly, is the cleanup. You know, I was trying to think of some politically correct way or some professional way to say it, but cleanup in this case is a joke. You know, it's been a long time. Your attorney on the staff might know I was awarded the AMJUR for my land use course many, many years ago, and I worked for an environmental firm. I now work for the county in a different area. But I do know a great deal about land use law and zoning law, and quite frankly, to the dismay of many of the people here, you guys could just wave a magic wand at some point in time and grant whatever project you want. But the thing is, we have rules in place, and you can't just come up, and I guarantee you, whatever court this gets in front of that looks at the term cleanup with what's attempting to be kind of jammed down the throats is going to come back and bite you. I have a great deal of respect for the many hours that you put into representing the people up here, but I think you ought to be aware of what it is that you're walking into. I think, quite frankly, the senior planner said the quiet part out loud. She said specifically that if you don't go forward with the cleanup, these projects can come forward on an individual basis. It will just take a lot more time, and it will take a lot more money on behalf of the applicant. That's why we're here. I could bring up a lot of the stuff that we heard from all the meetings that we all attended about how the applicant, the unknown applicant at this point in time, brought all of his students in lab coats as props. It was incredibly offensive to us. It was just ridiculous. It's the whole charade, and that's what I'm trying to avoid here. You're going to call something cleanup that no first-year law school student would agree is appropriate to come in under cleanup. What you're attempting to do is change the zoning law. You're not trying to move lines. You're not trying to get rid of 2 thes that spell check didn't catch. You're trying to make significant changes. A couple of the residents have already hired an attorney. I don't know that you want to walk into this. It's certainly on short notice. Many of the new council members who maybe haven't been on as long, I would just caution you against that. And that's not even getting into the 2,000 units that are supposedly on the drawing board. The fact that, oh yeah, 30 days is what we're going to give these students. Well, how many students do you have right now? Well, 200. You know, I know it's gone up since then, but this is a school that's not accredited. I can't believe even the optics that the board wants to get behind, you know, the donated property that family is on the board of. We didn't get the question, how many of these 63 properties? It makes it sound like these are 63 different property owners. I'd be curious to know how many of those Darius Yosemite owns. And I think it's telling, the fact that you want to jam this down the throat of cleanup, the fact that they're not mentioning who these 63 property owners are. So I would just caution you, and I think the last thing that I want to add, well, one other thing before you know, I went to Dry Creek. I went there in fact, I was a Blue Devil, and I'm damn proud of it. In fact, I'm still mad that they changed it to the Panthers. And that was done, I think that was done while I was gone. I moved away. And we always joke and say I got paroled, and then I made the stupid decision to come back. So, and where did I move? I moved right into the neighborhood around from where I grew up. In fact, my mom still lives at the same house so that my kids could attend Dry Creek. That's a pretty much lifelong resident of this community. You know, we always tell the joke, you know, why do people from Clovis think they're better than everybody else? Well, because we are. I mean, it's just, I'm not having so much of that feeling anymore when I've watched this project develop. the way that the developer comes and he's got whether it's true or not, the perception of most people in this room is that you're doing the bidder of a developer. And I don't want the council, I've been calling it the board, I apologize. The council, I don't want you to hide behind we're not giving thumbs up or thumbs down on any particular project. We're just cleaning something up. This is not cleanup. Think about it, what it is that you're being asked to clean up. This is not punctuation. This is not some boundary that was accident. You're making wholesale changes when your own senior planner told you you don't need to make this decision. The individual applicants can come before the board or the council or the planning commission, go through the proper process, and I think that's what we're asking. Go through the proper process. And
I'm going to have somebody else volunteer their 3 minutes for you, but thank you for your comment. All right, there's a volunteer. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them. And I'm sorry they changed the name at Dry Creek. I don't know. It happens. Who else to speak on this item? Anyone here that's agrees with this sentiment but doesn't want to speak? Just anybody that didn't get a chance? So the majority? Okay. All right. Both hands. 2 hands. 2 votes for you. All right. Uh-oh. Oh, you gave away your 3. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, man. I'm kidding. All right. Everybody good? Well, you're not good, but you've made a comment. Oh, man. You make my life impossible. Okay, but you got to come back now. This is how I get in trouble, because I'm terrible at this. I'm great at it until I'm terrible at it. Okay, 1 sentence.
I don't think it has any legal consequence, but on the public notice that I saw, it says if you don't raise any particular issue, you are foreclosed from raising those legal issues in the future. Again, I don't think that has any legal significance, but I, as a resident and an individual affected by this area, am objecting to the process of the cleanup being used in this particular case. I'm objecting to an EIR no more recent than I understand from 2009, when there were somewhere in the neighborhoods of 50,000 residents in this city, to now there's somewhere, I don't know, 125, 135, somewhere in that is just crazy. So on those bases, I'm objecting as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Seeing no other public comment. Yeah, last call. All right. We'll close the public portion. Oh, I'm sorry. Last one, I think that may be, sorry, I didn't mean to miss you.
I'm Martin Britz at 2474 East Clovis, and there's a nuisance there. There's a pack of maybe 8 or 10 coyotes on the 18 acres next to us, and they jump over the fence, some of them, and they come eat the cat. They like to eat the cats, but they haven't got them yet. Eat a few chickens, and other people have complained, other neighbors too, and the city doesn't seem to do anything.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, I'll close the public portion and return this item to the council for discussion, deliberation, direction.
Mayor Ashbeck, I just wanted to see if I can clarify a couple of things
Sure.
that were addressed. So, let's see, the first one that was mentioned in regards to specific CHSU language within the ordinance amendment. So that was in our original proposal to Planning Commission, but since then we have modified it to specifically outline schools or universities. So there's no reference proposed any longer in regards to CHSU in the ordinance amendment or in the development code. So I just wanted to note that correction. I also wanted to note that 9 of the 63 parcels are those planned for campus housing per the MOU plan. 11 of the 63 parcels are Granville parcels or some relation to Granville properties. And I also wanted to mention in regards to the environmental is that projects, again, specific, once they are developed, they will be required to come in and prepare any traffic analysis, any sewer or water analysis in regards to the project to make sure that those impacts are addressed. In 2014, when the EIR was complete for the general plan, it anticipated the entire 330 acres under the mixed-use business campus designation, and the existing uses are permitted uses within that specific, land use, designation.
So housing was a permitted use under mixed-use business campus in
Up to 25.1 units per acre, specifically in focus area 6.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thanks, Mackenzie. All right, team.
Just a quick question. There was concern about an EIR not being done, but could a valid EIR be done not knowing what's being planned?
Yeah, unless we have like a specific project, it will be hard. We would be analyzed at a program level versus a project level. We can't analyze at a project level unless we know what type of development or how many units or what's going to be going into that specific property.
And they'd have to do another EIR?
Potentially. It depends on what the studies say. So if the study comes back and says there is no traffic impact, then that'll determine the type of environmental assessment. If the traffic study comes back and says there's impact, but you can mitigate it by doing X, Y, Z, then that's a different type of environmental, mitigating neg deck. If we can't mitigate, if there's an impact to, let's say traffic, if there's an impact to traffic that we cannot mitigate, then that's what takes us into preparation of an EIR. It's when we can't mitigate an impact that it goes into EIR. So based off of whatever studies are done for the projects as those come in, what those analysis state will determine the level of environmental review that's prepared.
And the 63 parcels, you said 11 of them are owned or?
Yeah, either Granville or some entity associated with that. Yeah.
So if this council approves this tonight, granted, that does benefit the Granville and Assembly, but the remainder of the parcels that are not owned by them would be developable without, if a semiconductor company approached us and wanted to build there, if we don't clean this up, and I know you guys hate that word, but if we don't amend this, a company has to come in, they're going to have to apply for a GPA amendment, and that would extend, and they'd have to pay for that.
A rezone, they'd have to, the land use is already there, so they'd have to do a rezone. But yes, they would have to come in and submit for a rezone if their property was not designated RT or had that RT overlay.
So this doesn't just benefit one person?
Correct.
Okay, this is not participation. Let's just let everybody, go ahead.
And no, that's really all I have. Thank you.
Just makes for better conversation when we don't do that. Other comments? Bong?
Renee or Mackenzie or Dave, give examples of past cleanups that you have brought before us where it is pretty common. So it's not like this action tonight is unique in the actions you brought, because remember we did Rena, you did some cleanup up there because they had to meet the housing element. Some of the stuff in Loma Vista, there was a cleanup because so that way it would match. I think maybe Home Place had some, but can you share so that way it's not like cleanup is not a common action brought before the council, brought by staff before the council?
Yeah, I think the term cleanup means a lot of different things, depending on time, the time that it's done and what's included. And perhaps that was a mislabeling issue that has unnecessarily stirred folks up. To answer your question about other examples, I think the most sort of regular cleanup activity is that about every year and a half or so, between every 1 and 2 years, the Planning Division prepares a development code cleanup, which is full of modifications to various sections of the development code to address changes that have come up, to fix errors that have been made, to tweak language to reflect policy determinations that have been changed over time. So we've done that a handful of times since the current code was changed in 2014. We've also had examples where we've incorporated changes to the development code relative to implementing state housing law that we've made fairly routinely when changes are made by the state. We need to incorporate those provisions. So those are a few examples of things we've called cleanup activities.
And this current area, is it included or counted in the current housing element submitted? The potential parcels or units?
No, I don't.
None of it is?
Believe so. No, it's not designated for housing at present, so it was not included.
And there is no overlay here, correct? Also in the RT part?
No housing overlay.
I just wanted to, a number of people brought up some legal questions or concerns, so I just wanted to see if our city attorney could weigh in on some of those issues that were brought up and if there is liability or what the city's position is on that.
Well, I certainly wouldn't suggest that we won't get sued if, whichever way you go. I mean, there's risks on both sides, obviously. As mentioned by a couple of the speakers, certainly there's risks for CEQA challenges. There's always going to be CEQA challenges to a lot of projects. So, but I think staff's position and what's been laid out in the staff report is a defensible position under CEQA, based on the inconsistencies that currently exist from what was intended with the 2014 general plan, the inaccuracies that were in there as far as Focus Area 6, some of the zoning designations that are consistent with the mixed campus land use designation that weren't updated at the time, that need to be updated, or that should have been updated, frankly, back in 2009 or 2014. Those are things that, depending on how you feel, are cleanup items, are things that were inaccurate at the time that should have been corrected at that time.
I'll start and give my thoughts with regards to just the RT Park and sort of how I got to where I am. It's been, what, 20 years?
2001.
2001, so...
I think we was approved in 1999, broke ground in 2001.
Yeah. And so it has been a long time coming, and previous councils approved the medical school, and it is an accredited medical school now. Graduated this first group of 76 or 77 medical students, and it's going to move up to 175 and close to 200 every single year. And its full classes will have 200 students about each year. So when the medical school came forward, it was a shift from technology, but previous council saw that it is something beneficial to the city of Clovis. And so when it came before, when I got on the council, you know, we've been hearing of a medical school from UCSF, from everywhere, promising this valley for over 30 years. And finally, it gets delivered here to the city of Clovis. Though it's a private medical school, it is still punching out doctors, getting ready to go to residency, which they also had 100% match last year. So they are producing doctors who will be coming here, great paying jobs. The discussion, I think, is with how much housing is the issue, not really that should it have housing. And I think that is something that we can work on. But with regards to us approving or moving forward with, is housing associated or relevant to the medical school? And I think that council at that time in 2021 said it is, with the guidelines that Mr. Wright, you laid out very clearly. And I think those are things we need to decide. With that there already, with that being a part of the use, I see this action as whether it is for this school or potentially another tech school that comes in and needs housing, it allows the RT Park to have a wider array of potential, because we waited over 20 years, really nothing came. Finally, a medical school comes that is associated with, that can build jobs and train students, and is also close to Clovis Community Medical Center. I think it is appropriate for us to see how we can fix the zoning, make it correct according to sort of the AUP and what the staff have agreed upon per the timeline. So because of that, I think this is necessary, and I also agree that the EIR is not relevant at this time. And I believe that the changes with regards to the zoning, with regards to the ordinance amendment, and the GPA are appropriate for us to allow sort of the best uses and the most amount of uses for not just the medical school, but for the RT park as a whole. So that's where I'm at.
Thoughts of others?
I'll just kind of add to that my thoughts and feelings as someone who hasn't been part of the 20-plus year process here, but I am familiar from a variety of things that have come forward with sort of what has gone on here. And I think it's important that what's before us and what we're calling cleanup, whether that is amendments or rezoning, the purpose of those is to recognize that what was envisioned in 1999 and 2001, as Vaughn kind of mentioned, things didn't really evolve based on those visions. And so now we need to look at it and say, what's going to be in the best interest of the city moving forward for development in that area? And I see doing this rezoning and having an option for overlays, it isn't for a specific developer, but what it is, it's for the entirety of the RT park, for anyone to be able to look at a property within that area and already have the groundwork laid for them. We're removing impediments for this RT park to become what people hoped it would be, maybe something slightly different, but we do have Clovis Community Medical Center in the general vicinity. We do have California Health Sciences University. There's been success along those lines, and I think it is in the city's best interest to come alongside and be supportive of that and make sure that we're doing our part to alleviate some of the issues that would make development more hindered in that area with the RT park designation. And so for what is actually before us tonight, that's how I'm seeing it.
Thank you. Ma'am, the public portion is closed. Sorry. Thank you. Did you want to comment?
I have a question for the city attorney. If this council approved this action tonight and there was a subsequent project that came through, let's say it was 200 units, I hear the concerns of the neighbors. You know, there's a 30-day window where the students can say, I want that, and only 5 of them do it, and then gives us 195 apartments that can be free market. Does this council, that has to come before this council to begin with. We can say no and push it back or say you need to phase this into smaller ways, correct?
Yeah, I would say yes, and I guess answer a question that maybe was not asked, but if a different developer, a new developer comes in with 200 units, even the zoning district, correct me if I'm wrong, Mackenzie or Dave, the development code, we're not specifying the campus affiliation connections. The only campus affiliation connections that we have currently are in the MOU, I believe. Is that correct? We're not proposing that the zoning code or the development code contains those.
Correct.
So, yes, so if a new project was to come forward, 200 units or whatever your example was, you could direct staff to go back, negotiate or discuss with them what the level of affiliation is going to be that's required, the guardrails, so to speak, as before.
Thank you.
So just, I think a few comments for me. I went back and listened to the entire, meeting of 2021 this afternoon. And I think there's two things that can be true at the same time. Having a medical school in Clovis, to Long's point, and a law school 50 years from now is a game changer. And maybe the STEM, where Mrs. Gillard go, I mean, maybe the STEM jobs, all that stuff, I think that's fair. I think that's totally right. And I'm going to be totally blunt. I don't think the city did a great job with the AUP in the beginning. So that was the surprise element that you all like, well, wait, where did that come from? So I think that was a missed opportunity, I think, back in 2016 and then in 21. So what we all said in 2021 is, I still think true today. This is important. We need guardrails. Go back and put it in the document. I'm not sure we're there. The thing that bothers me most is in 2021, one of the reasons for this hurry was the testimony that we need housing today. We're triggered that we need them right now. That was 5 years ago. We don't have any housing right now. Medical school is doing great. They are accredited. I think they have 600 students. We are better for the medical school. We want them here. They are good for Clovis. Again, two things can be true. I feel like we're doing this out of order. And I said this to staff today on the phone. I feel like we're upside down in this process. The AUP doesn't match the MOU, so you got to go back and change one or the other. So before we approve this with documents that need updating anyway, I don't know why we can't continue this and do a little more work. I think your concerns about housing, the question for all of us is, what would it take for housing to be the most amenable to where you live? How would that look? What would that look like? So that we do have a college campus in the RT park. That, I think, is positive and good for Clovis. But I just don't know if that's been aired enough. And I know some of the meetings were offensive, I think was your word. I know they didn't go well. So here we are. So I think I am fully supportive of the medical school. I think they need housing and a student union and a basketball court and all the things that they said in 2021. They need them right then. It's 2025, almost. So I don't have this urgency to clean this up, knowing it's not clean. It's upside down. It's out of order. So for me, if I was in charge, which I am not, I would suggest we continue this and keep doing the work to get clear on the guardrails, to get clear on the definition. What does campus-affiliated housing mean? It's not dorms, where Mr. Watt go. It's not dorms. These are not 20-year-old kids that are going to drink their way through college. These kids are smart and in debt and want to be a doctor. So it's not quite that. So it's just, it's a little bit different. But I just think we have more work to do. And I think, in fairness to all of you, we don't need to get it done today. I can't find the urgency to do it right now. So again, if I were in charge, I would say we continue this. We keep working with the MOU and the AUP, get that clean, and then make this match and keep going. And let's hear from the applicant. We're happy, not right now. We're happy, we're supportive, we're glad you're here, all of that. It's good for Clovis in the next 50 years. All of that is true. I just don't see the need to do this today because I think it's out of order. And I want to give more chance for conversation. We do hear you, totally understand why you feel this way. Everything I said in 21, I still believe to be true about the campus and what we need. I just don't feel tonight we're not in a hurry. There's not a single application in the mix, so I'm not sure if somebody comes in tomorrow, yay, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that tomorrow. So that's where I am. I'm just very uncomfortable with this process. So that's right. Supportive and uncomfortable. I can be both at the same time. No applause needed. That's why we're all a little bit different. So we have before us some actions to take. So I would suggest we continue it. I don't know if that will get any traction at all, but that's what I would offer on the table. But I'd be open to motions if anybody has any other ideas.
Just a question for you, Mayor.
Yeah.
So you agree that there needs to be student housing?
Definitely.
And so my question is, how does this action lead to where we don't get there? Because this makes it so that anybody who wants to come into the RT park, so we can't speak on one applicant. We must speak as the entire RT park to allow the entire RT park to develop. And so this is going to be needed no matter what. I think the discussion the neighbors have wanting with us, that still has to happen. You see, so in other words, we need to do this regardless. if we're gonna say housing's there, how much housing? Okay, yeah, maybe it's 2 acres instead of 70 acres, but that's something in which we can discuss later. But this is gonna be needed because so that RT Park can be open and ready and kosher all the way around. That's where I see the action today, and so.
I don't disagree. The items are all linked together. It's all tangled up. We have an AUP and an MOU and a GPA and a rezone. They're all mixed up. And I think we don't have clarity on the AUP and the MOU, what it's gonna be. So I think the cleanup, sorry, I don't like that word, the cleanup just is gonna need to be cleaned up again in 60 days or 90 days or 2 years. I just think there's just no urgency, and I'd rather have the conversation with the neighbors before we clean it up to make sure we're cleaning up the right thing, and then we'll move along. But again, we see no development action out there. I don't know what we're not in a hurry today, and I think we owe it to you to have another conversation about what it's going to look like. And the problem we're trying to solve is not, can I make the housing go away? Because the answer is no. The housing is essential for a university to thrive. I think none of us would disagree that went to a university and lived in housing. And what is it going to take to be the best we can make it for where you live? That's to me the question. And I think we can get there. I just don't feel the urgency to do it today with what in the order we're doing it tonight. So that's just my perspective, but I might be the only voice up here. So I would move for a continuous to a date uncertain, let us keep working on it, but if that motion doesn't have any second, then that's what I think, but it won't go anywhere. So I'll make the motion just for the sake of the conversation to continue this item and continue the work with the neighbors and making sure all of our documents are clean and orderly, and then coming back and putting it back together as a whole. But that's where I am. So I'll make the motion if there's a second. Or not. Okay, so my motion fails for lack of a second, and that happened.
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
If this item has 4 components, if we were to approve item C, which is rezone approximately 63 properties with the designated RT park plan, and to Lynn's point, continued the other 3 which speak to housing, campus housing, would that put us in a better position if tomorrow a semiconductor company showed up? Would that resolve some of the problems that we have, and then we kind of work on the other ones as we go? Or is that just not even worth doing?
So no, because the rezone relies on the ordinance amendment in regards to the RT overlay. So if you had, so there's a section of the ordinance amendment that's specific to the RT overlay. So without that, those properties, there would be no language that talks about what that RT overlay is. So if there was a developer on one of the properties that was designated with that overlay, there would be no details as to what that permits. So essentially doesn't exist. So we'd need that to be, the GPA is cleanup language in regards to tables in land uses, so that may be separate, but the rezone and the ordinance amendment would need to go because there's language in that ordinance amendment for the rezone.
Okay, help me wordsmith this then. If looking at the proposals that we would need to approve, is there a way of cutting out from those anything that dealing with the student housing and approving the remainder? You understand what I'm trying to get to here?
I asked that question today on the phone. I think we'd be better off doing the GPA. I mean, if we're going to do anything, I think you could do that to say, sure, this is what it could be, and then the others, I think, where the details get. But I'm not a planner.
Well,
So Scott.
go ahead, Mackenzie.
And you jump in if I'm saying anything incorrectly, but if you're trying to rezone the properties to be consistent with the mixed-use designation, then I would say the rezone would need to be approved tonight, and the portion of the ordinance amendment specific to the RT overlay only would be part of the approval. anything related to the GPA, which has to do with the addition of language and the correction of the boundary, would be removed. The ordinance amendment, anything associated with campus-affiliated housing language and any development standards for that campus housing would be removed. It would just be the RT park overlay, so I could find that specific section in the ordinance for this proposal, and then no action on the amendment to the architectural guidelines, because again, the art guidelines just reference the development standards as well.
Anybody else?
That's too complicated.
I think she's right.
Nice.
But I guess I'll ask a clarifying question. I think I may understand where the mayor's going, and perhaps Councilman Bessinger, but is the concern, I guess, wanting to approve as much as you can approve without any potential campus-affiliated housing proceeding pursuant to the MOU and the amended AUP?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
I do want to say that with what I just said, if action is taken in regards to just the zoning designations and that overlay, is we do have an AUP that's already been approved for 24 acres. So those 24 acres would now have the consistent zoning to develop through site plan review or multifamily design review or tract. So that component would still be permitted if we were to approve the rezoning as well.
And that's the original 24 acres from the 2016 AUP, but it wouldn't address the potential 70 acres
correct.
With the MOU in 2021. And again, that MOU calls out the fact that they would have to propose an amended AUP at some point. They couldn't get there with the suggested approvals that Councilman Bessinger just proposed, but as Mackenzie said, they would still have the original 2016 AUP. And I don't know, frankly, Mackenzie or Dave, we didn't have any guardrails, so to speak, or affiliation requirements from the 2016 MOU, or the 2016 AUP, I'm sorry.
No, not on the AUP. In the MOU, yes, but not in the AUP.
And the AUP and the MOU don't match anyway.
In regards to the amount of campus housing and the entire location. So as you see on the screen there, there's the 24 acres of the campus housing, and then there's the 70. So the 24 that you're looking at would be down here somewhere that are part of the AUP.
And I guess that makes my point. It's upside down. If they all should be the same. The AUP and the MOU should be the same. The guardrails should be clear. Definitions are out there. We all know what we're doing. That to me makes sense. And then I think the action cleans it up, and we're all in a line. But I'm sure my linear thinking is not linear, but that's how my brain works in this case. So I think we're upside down.
The one concern that I would say in regards to the AUP or coming back is that we have to make findings for the AUP for consistency. And so if we didn't have the cleanup, we wouldn't be able to do the AUP to match the MOU for 70 acres because of that consistency.
Well, I'm going to, my assurance to the audience is, to the neighbors is, the AUP process needs to be amended, and that is when we can iron out the details. But what is needed in the RT park zoning, we're going to want student housing no matter what. That's why I'm comfortable with the corrections that are here. The details is when the AUP comes up before us, and then the sort of the alignment that you are requesting, that's when all that can be ironed out and hashed out in detail. But until we do tonight, there's no point in getting there because we can't get there. So I want to assure that this council, at least, I'm sure 4 of us for sure, I don't know, Matt's going to be conflicted out again, that we want to be able to visit the details of the student housing component and how it fits and fits with the AUP and the amended AUP that will be coming forward. We're going to discuss that in detail. And so that's sort of my sense here. So with that, can I make a motion? Or you
so
want
my
to
motion was a good motion, but it didn't have a second. So my motion died for lack of a second, so try it again.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to approve GPA 2021-007. Do you need me to read it all, Scott, or?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Sure.
If you're not modifying what the
No, I'm not
proposed,
modifying it. Yeah.
Okay.
then you can just say as
Okay.
listed in the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to amend the general plan after all the things we just said. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, sorry. 3 ayes. All those opposed, no. 1 abstention. So the motion does carry, 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance amendment 2021-004.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Other discussion? See if I can do it right this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstention, 1. So that motion also carries, 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Item C.
Make a motion to approve rezone 2021-010.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. And item D.
And I'll make a motion to request to amend the Clovis Research and Technology Architectural Guidelines to add development and design standards for campus affiliated housing consistent with the General Plan and Development Code.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Last call. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. 1 abstention. That motion also passes. 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention.
Mayor Ashbeck, I just wanted to follow up on the last item in regards to the AUP amendment. So staff is wanting to recommend that the City Council review and consider that AUP amendment, because right now our AUP process is approved at the director level. So we're asking for a direction and a recommendation that the City Council review and consider that AUP once it's submitted.
You don't have anything specific. You're just asking policy-wise, should it come back?
Yes.
110%. It should come back. All right. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your input very much. And if you didn't get notice of this and you want to make sure you are on that list, get your contact information to Mackenzie up here. Are we calling Matt back, or is he just gone home forever?
He went to go get him. It'll just be 1 minute. He's in City Hall.
Oh, I thought you said he went to a game, and I was like, really?
He's at a Dodger game.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. They said you went to a Dodger game.
Oh.
They were kidding. All right, city manager comments.
I have none, Mayor.
Did you say anything? What? I have none? Oh, okay.
I have none, Mayor.
Council comments. Well, Matt, welcome back. How'd the meeting go for you tonight? Great. Do you have any council comments?
Just one. Just going back to a couple meetings ago, when we were talking about the 120 days being out, and we would bring back the fees onto the agenda. We are having that on the agenda in 120 days. Is that correct? I'm just clarifying it,
The development, the water, all that
we were
fees?
talking about the 5%, and we wanted everybody to go out, work together,
Oh,
come
yeah.
back in 120 days, and we would have that on the agenda sometime in December, that we were actually doing that.
That was the direction staff received. We had estimated the first meeting in December. The specific direction was to work with the industry and come back with options, but council was pretty specific about pushing back on the industry to come to the table with something other than tearing apart staff's recommendations.
Correct. I just was making sure that is coming back in 120 days, so I can answer that correctly. That's all I have. Thank you.
Diane?
Nothing other than to wish everyone a fantastic school year as Clovis Unified is back in session. So to all of our Clovis Unified compadres and the staff, administration, and of course students and families, just hope it's a fantastic school year.
Thank you. Drew?
Nothing.
Fawn?
Just wanted to put on the record the Youth Commission application is out, So if you have sophomore, juniors who are wanting to join our commission for the second cohort, please have them apply. I think they're going through, and seniors. Oh, and seniors, so three levels. They're applying to our clerk, is that correct? Yes, so please go to our website, it's there, and then if you have, you can submit your application to our clerk, Brianna. And then, my second comment, John, for that fee, can you also, even if it's before, it'd be great, I don't know if my commission, can we talk about prepayment? Because there seems to be a lot of confusion. We got an email, now there's a policy, and so whether something in which you can just, this is when that prepayment policy was approved, this is what staff has been using, it's because we're getting questions from the industry going, they never seen that policy, so help us out with regards to that.
Yes.
Because we got, I think the Wilson Group and also the Loma Vista Marketplace, they're questioning those, so.
So the policy from 2006 allows an appeal to the city engineer. If city engineer denies it, they have the ability to appeal to the city manager. There's nothing specific in there to appeal it to the city council. My recommendation would be after we bring an update back to council, possibly during council comments, you could direct staff to bring an item back for consideration of either the one or two that were denied.
Okay. And in that, can you start prepping the history of that as well?
Yes.
Because that's just so that we know the council did approve it, so at a certain time.
The history of the prepayment policy?
Yes,
Council did not approve that policy, as far as I know. I think that was a staff-initiated policy back in 2006.
Right. I think we did it under Steve White.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. That's all I have.
Matt, back to you.
Okay, so I had one other question.
It's like a TV reporter. Matt, back to you.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Okay, congratulations to you both. Apparently, you both won your election. But on follow-up, to an email, it said that we were gonna decide that by, was it August 22nd? That we needed to make a decision, or did I read the email wrong?
Sorry, August 22nd for what decision?
Yeah, you want...
We were supposed to meet prior to August 22nd to decide what we were going to do in regards to either an election, an appointment.
I can explain.
I think Scott clarified
there is a process, there is a process in the elections law that allows for, if no more candidates than the number of spots to be filled, as has happened years ago in Clovis, then the council can technically appoint those candidates to fill the positions. And Clovis did that before. Several cities do that when people run unopposed. There's 2 council spots, there's 2 candidates to qualify. You can appoint. There's a very short window of time in which the council can do that. An appointment under that basis, for election purposes, you're considered elected. That process is only allowed, however, if you do not have a ballot measure on the ballot. Because we have the ballot measure on the ballot, we cannot do that. You can't cancel part of the election. Yeah, you can't cancel the council portion, but still have the ballot measure portion. So that's why.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything before August 22nd. There's an election because it's on the ballot.
Correct.
All right.
The council members' names will appear on the ballot, even though there won't be an opportunity for any opponents to file, although I think there's potential for a write-in candidate, but yeah.
So 2 candidates on the ballot, and it'll be vote for 2. And then we would normally carry the term of the mayor and the mayor pro tem through the normal term that they would, and it would be probably the first meeting in December. When we bring back the diffs, we're going to do a reorganization.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks for looking out for us, though. We appreciate that. Appreciate that. All right, and I will say, it dawned on me tonight, who is my proxy to FCTA? Do I have one? Well, anyway, so I missed FCTA last week because I was on vacation in Alaska. Did I tell you where the temperature was 57 degrees? But all I know is what I read online. It picked up a bit, but FCTA did meet, and the Measure C item was at the end. And because there was a quorum exactly, Councilmember Arias decided he would leave prior to the vote, so there was no action by FCTA on Measure C, which is just hugely disappointing. So we're going to kind of regroup and figure out. COG voted to move forward with it just in terms of the planning process, but FCTA couldn't actually manage that because of lack of quorum caused by Mr. Arias deciding he would step out just before the item. So, we'll clean that up. We'll have another cleanup. We'll have more cleanup language on FCTA as time goes on. And I did have a wonderful time, but I only brought half the candy bars because I don't know where the rest are, but the rest of you will get candy bars later. Chuga and Shauna, my travel agent in Alaska Ideas, was very well done. But we had a great time in Alaska. I would highly recommend it. And when I retire, I'm going to become an Iditarod dog racer because it was so fun. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. More chocolate to come for the rest of you. I'm helping you watch your weight right now. More to come, all of you, more to come. So anyway, had a really wonderful time, so thanks for the time to do that. All right, that concludes our public session. We are now going to adjourn into closed session, so we ask that the public exit to the council chambers. We appreciate your time, for staff and the public for being here. And we will be taking action, Scott, or not?
We are not asking for any reportable action tonight. So we're not anticipating having to reconvene, and report any action out. We will reconvene, but not have to report any action.
I have one more thing to say. I forgot. Pretend we're still open. It is? I want to say something for the public session. Yes, I am still open. Chad. I think we need a little social media campaign on parking. I knew this was going to happen. We all knew it. In neighborhoods with short driveways, people are parking in the sidewalk. And it's a current next-door app sort of annoying conversation. And if you could just ask your neighbor to scooch up. But, of course, no one does that. So maybe we could do a little like, if you live in this kind of a neighborhood, this is what's going to happen when you block the sidewalk. Because there's all kinds of cranky comments and how mean people are. And it's totally wasted. But a little social media campaign on, don't do that, would be helpful. That's all. Now we're in closed session.